this computer. Okay, now we're recording. All right, so I'm going to do the npm install React Router DOM, and I think it was 5.2.0 is the one that we typically use. It looks like Cypress is actually working. So you can actually see the Cypress directory, the integration, fixtures, or whatever else they do in here, right? So if I go into Cypress, you could, run your tests or whatnot. It's right now it's not super important what we're dealing with because this is just your normal Cypress window. So we're just going to close out of Cypress for right now because we're not really going to use it for like another hour or so. And then go back to React Router DOM. So React Router DOM, we're using 5.2.0 because 6 is screwy. Eventually they'll get it fixed where it'll work with earlier syntax, but for right now, it doesn't. I tried it earlier today on another project and it's still broken. So they haven't fixed it in the 2 months since they launched it, or 3 months, however long it's been. Let's see, what else do we need? We needed yup, right? So we're going to install yup. And everybody feel free to come off and mute if you have a question on what I'm doing. While I'm doing it is fine. It's always a good idea to get it while it's fresh in your brain. Okay, so I think I'm probably okay with that one going away. Let me just see what happens here. See if I can program like this, or I'm going to go crazy. That's close enough. Okay, so since I'm not worried about elements or CSS or any of that kind of stuff, I'm going to run start. Watch it crash. Okay, totally legit Tesla order form. Don't be fooled by the fancier order forms. This is the correct one because, I want people to send me their money. Works really well for me. So first thing that we're going to want to do is we are going to want to do a browser router around our app. So we need a provider to give us the functionality of React Router. So what we're going to do is we're going to import browser router as router from React Router DOM. And what we need to do is we need to wrap this app in that functionality. So we're going to,
It'd just be router.
Oh yeah, it's router. You're right. Large brain today. The later it gets, the worse it gets. Shoot. All right. So now we have a router that is wrapping our app. So it's going to be able to give us the functionality of browser router. And there's other ones like hash router and things like that. But browser router is the one that most people are used to. Hash router, literally, it takes like the hash symbol and it puts it on everything. It's really annoying. I don't know who would ever do it that way, but whatever. I guess there's a use case for someone to do that. But browser router is the one where you can basically use any endpoint that you want. So let's go ahead and save this and make sure it doesn't crash anything first. I'll go ahead and do that. We're going to inspect and this on the bottom. I only really care about the console right now, so I don't. There we go. So that should give us something here, and you know, if we wanted to, we could do, you know, it prints out hello world. So you know, it's going to work no matter what. Out of a habit, I'll import my React from React. Version 17 doesn't need it, but it's kind of nice to have for older versions. I think it was 17 or 16 point something. They brought it out where you didn't have to import React anymore. I don't remember the exact version anymore, but almost all of the projects that I work on still are running older versions of React for who knows whatever reason. All right, so let's get started with kind of where we're going on this. So I am going to want to have different routes. I'm going to go and get the exact syntax. So you'll see me looking things up regularly. There's nothing wrong with looking it up, especially if your brain is in 8:30 at night brain mode. Let's see. So the one that I'll usually look up is the React training blog post for React Router version 5.1. Gives kind of a general overview of using parameters and things like this. So like this first example is like version 4 syntax, which isn't exactly what we want. We want to use the newer, easier syntax. So we're also going to want the switch and probably going to need link for this. So what we might do is make a header. A link, we'll say a link to our home page. So we'll say home. And we probably want a switch, if I can type today. Inside of that switch, we probably want to route. And on that route, we're going to need a path. And we're only going to want this to render when it's exact. So we might move these two lines into that route. So I'll kind of explain a little tiny bit. So the switch is kind of sort of going away in future versions, but it's kind of staying the same, but they're calling them like routes or something like that. Effectively, this is kind of telling React Router that we have routes inside of here. And this is what we want to render for this area of this page. And so let's say we've got, our home page. This is saying that our header is going to have an A tag that goes to home. When you click on it, it should display whatever's inside of this route and this exact route. So anyone have any questions on exact? Doesn't sound like it.
I don't have any questions on exact. I remember there was another way, but it's been 3 days.
Oh, there's millions of ways. This is the way I prefer doing it, though. So okay. The other thing that I'm probably going to do is let's do another route. And let's do it where it's not an exact path. We just have the path is equal to, say, order form. Sounds fine. So if we're on the order form path, I guess I could probably get rid of this. We want it to display, H2. Come on. And this is Sparta, whatever, right? So I don't have a link to anything else. But it should still be able to go home, and I should be able to go up here to the top here and do order form. And you can see this is Sparta. I click on home, it goes back. So if somebody does try to go to the order form route, they can see that it's got a header 2 of this is Sparta. So I'm also going to show you an example of where not exact is probably a good idea to have in this specific case, because it's going to render anything deeper than order form as well. Well, theoretically.
Is switch necessary here? Like, do you need switch for this to work?
Yeah, maybe. Later versions, no. Again, they were trying to get around it. But there's a little bit of a debate on that, and I forgot exactly what the effect of not using switch is going to be. And forgive me if I forget. I'm mostly just following the syntax on this one. But I guess maybe later we could probably remove it and see what breaks. So let me do a path to and we'll do, say, model. So this model here is going to be the name of the variable that's in your use parameters. So if we go back over here to this React training here, you're going to notice that the route path is posts and then slug. So slug is the name of the variable. So when you look in this blog post, what they're doing is they're calling use params, and whatever use params returns is an object, and we're destructuring the variable slug out of that. So this slug is literally defined right here. So if they were to call this something other than slug, like banana, it would be, instead of slug, it would be banana up here. So yeah, it's just whatever word you want to use. But a slug is a common term for what this portion of a endpoint is. Does that make sense? So if I go and I save this, and I do slash order form, make it wider on that. And if I start putting more stuff on here, like 3, it still says this is Sparta in here, even though there's more stuff in here. So it's not the exact route where it's only order form right here. It's also order form /3. So it'll show up on everything that order form has. We'll all say this is Sparta. So anything underneath order form. So if you had, might make more sense to say, something like that. So the next thing I'm probably going to want to do is I'm probably going to want to render a component, and we don't have any components. So let's make one. So we'll do components, and we'll call this orderform.js. So import React from React. Next thing that we want is a new variable for order form. We're going to equal that to a new function. And we're going to want to export order form. And we're going to want to return something. I typically will just do something blank like this and just say, and make sure that works. So we'll go back over to app, and we will do this is the only time that auto imports ever does anything right, is when it does stuff like that. So we have our order form on line 22. So if it goes to this model, it should render order form. I'm going to save that and refresh. And I could be wrong. Let's see here. Let me see. And it didn't render it, of course. So I don't know. I guess we'll get rid of this. It'll be fine. There we go. So now we have our order form showing up, and my exact thing didn't work right the way that I wanted it to. Yeah, maybe it was that. Maybe it's because we didn't have exact on the other one. Let's play with that. No. Could be my brain thinking of something else, I guess. Different languages or whatever. So we're rendering the order form. Everything that else I said, ignore. So probably what we're going to want to do now is, let's say that we, what if we wanted to do, say, article, and we say model, we'll do model something another, order form. So what we could do is we could import from React Router DOM. I don't need the whole thing. There we go. All right, so we're going to import use params from React Router DOM. And if we just console log use params, see what it returns. Console, you can see that it's taking this name right here, putting it into this object as the key, and it's taking whatever's up here, right here, and it's giving it access to that string value. Does that make more sense for use params? It's not super complex. So what we might do is destructure this. So we're taking the model out of the object and making a new variable named model. So what we probably could do is put in, I capitalize this in, make it look like a super legit form. There, good punctuation too. So now we have a model 3 order form. If we wanted an S, we could put an S in there. Probably want a capital S. See? So it's taking the parameter up here, but what happens when we put a space in there? Oops, didn't mean to save that. Oh, still have Model S plaid. I like that. Okay, I had to have gone over somebody's head. Anyone? It's getting really quiet. Also took a little water break, so.
I'm fine. I feel like I'm rusty just because of like how fast paced we're moving with
Mhm.
things, that even like this stuff, it's like, yeah, I know, I'm just shaking off the cobwebs since Monday or Tuesday, you know?
Oh yeah. So this is ambiguously on the test tomorrow. The stuff that I'm covering. Mostly it's routes, but it's also, I'm trying to show you stuff that is used most commonly in the industry. You know, use match, blah, blah, blah stuff that is used, but like I have to look it up every, 4 months that I have to use it or so. But now that we do have a kind of something that we can play with an order form, I guess we can start actually writing an order form. Oh, I guess we probably want to do close that out. We don't need that. We also don't need the package JSON. We're probably going to need some more links so we can actually get somewhere. So all right, so we've got the 3, the Y, the S, and the X. All right, so now I should be able to click on Home, go Home, Model 3, Model Y, Model S, and Model X. With horrible, horrible, horrible CSS styling. I should get fired for that. Okay, so now we kind of have a route here. And we've got another route here with the order form. And we're probably going to add another one for completed order or something like that. In the order form, let's just go ahead and just do a very basic form. And how detailed do you guys want to get into the form stuff? Just like super detailed or partially detailed, or how do you want to do it?
I'm good on the form, so partial for me, but not speaking for everybody else.
Okay. I guess I'm going to kind of do kind of a basic form where it only needs like just a name, and mostly just for brevity's sakes. Everybody's familiar with how to do the checked versus the value, or anybody stuck on that one still?
I'm sorry about that, Brian. Can you repeat that? Stuck on what?
Is anybody stuck on checked, like for check boxes or things like that?
I just had it with what was it? With the submit button. That was the only thing that I think I was having an issue with. But other than that, I think it was okay.
Okay. I guess probably what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and do a little tiny bit on checkboxes then. I may be a little rusty myself, so we're going to use state, and I'm also going to use context. Not use context, use effect. The use effect is going to be for the submit button change. I was running into some Cypress testing issues last time, and I think that after I spent some time with it the next day, the use effect was what I ended up doing to fix it. So probably what we're going to do is we're going to make a new slice of state, and we're just going to call this form. Might as well be consistent, right? And we're going to use an object for our form. And we're going to have it where you have a name. I guess we're just going to say accepted. And we're just gonna make it a string for right now. It's fine. I think probably we're gonna make it a true false value by the end, but for right now it's fine. At least gives us something to work with. So if we're going to make a form, probably going to need a label for each one of these. So I'm going to switch this over to a JSX file. So give me 1 second here. Rename. There. My life will be so much easier. So now we've got a label, HTML4. All right. So in our labels, this one is going to be and then say bring it on. So what we're probably going to do on the label for bring it on is we're going to have an input checkbox, and for our enter the name, we're going to have an input text. See if there's one here for text. There we go. So our name is going to want to match your key inside of your form. So this one is going to be name equals name, and this one is going to be, I think it was accepted. Yeah. And I think on the checkbox, we have a checked equals, and it's going to want to be the value of this accepted here. I can type today, geez. All right, the other one here, this one's going to be a value, since checkboxes are different because, well, thank you, the guy who invented these things 30 years ago or however long it's been. This one's going to be form.name. So what we're doing is we're going to be filling the value of this form with this. So right now it's just a string value. Accepted, that probably needs to be a true false value. So this one's probably going to be false first. And we're just going to save it, see what comes up here. All right, so can't do anything because we don't have any handlers to handle this. Okay, so what we do need is we're going to need to have something that is going to be able to handle whenever you type into that box. So so our event is going to be anytime that you type something, and our target is going to be the form input itself. So this is the target that we're going to be using. So And anybody has questions, this is also a great time to just interrupt me and say, hey, Brian, you're going too fast. I need you to slow down and tell me what on earth is an on change. No shame or anything in that.
Not a question about the content, but I can't stay on for too much longer.
Oh, you're fine.
Will this be posted somewhere?
Oh yeah,
tonight?
yeah, I post them every single night. It's also basically identical to the one that I posted earlier. So I'm just not moving at the 3.5 hour where I'm explaining every single step.
Okay.
So that one's going to be a little bit more detailed.
All right. Thank you.
So maybe a better one. You never know. You're very welcome. Let's see. I'm going to chat. You're fine. No, not a problem at all. Understand the whole kid thing. I never was one when I was a kid, but you know, whatever. All right. So if you'll notice, I've just got this e.target. I'm not doing value or name or checked or anything. But what this is going to allow me to do let's see here. Complaints a little less. Okay, less complaints. So if I type the letter A, so we've got an input type of text, name is this, and the value did not work the way that I wanted it to. Maybe it went through too fast. Let me just look at value. Yeah, so this is outputting the letter A every time I do it. So here's S, things like that. So we're going to do the 3 possible ones, which is e.target.name, e.target.value, and e.target.checked. And I'll refresh, clear it. So if I click this button, you can see that it is the accepted name. It is a value of false, and it's trying to change it to true. This right here is a weird one. This value kind of does whatever, but I just noticed there was an error when there was not a value here. So let me see if that goes away. I just want to, we can always put that back. Okay, good. So we've got an accepted, an on, and a true. We've also can get ASDF. Just go right up the thing, or WASD. For all you gaming fans out there. And so all we're doing is on this on change is we are sending it the event. And all we're interested in are these 3 variables. The event.target.name, event.target.value, event.target.checked. So what we could do on this is we can kind of go down a little bit of a rabbit hole and figure out, let's see, 55, and try to figure out the checked thing, but let's try to get the regular form working first. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to be able to set the form. Now set the form is going to replace everything that is inside of our form. So we're going to basically want to duplicate this information right here. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to make a new object. We're going to spread what's already in there. And then we're going to replace whatever was in there that got changed. And we're going to do that with the square bracket notation. And that square bracket notation right here is going to allow us to access the value of whatever's in e.target.name here, which is the word name. So it's going to be doing name, colon, and then e.target.value, like that. So if I save it, this one line is going to work really well for this. You can actually see that name has, this is a test down here, and each keystroke actually went through and re-rendered that section. But this checkbox doesn't work. It says accepted on, it's still on. True, false, 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 false. It doesn't work. It's not that smart. So this is where you probably don't want to be using e.target.value. You probably just want to be using a new variable called value. And we're going to determine whether we want the value from checked or the value from e.target.value based on if checked exists or not. So if you'll notice, checked originally, if I refresh this and I inspect this one specific element, there is no checked in here. So it's just type checkbox, name accepted. There is no checked. So what we're going to do is we're going to check for it's undefined. It's either undefined or null or one of those. We're going to do this called value. So what we're going to do is we're going to set value to whether this is true or false. This is going to be e.target dot checked or e.target value. Oh, I may have broken it. Let's see here. Checked is not defined. Where is checked? Line 16. Oh, sorry, e.target.checked. No, all right. So this is going to be e.target. Typo. All right, so let's go back over here to the console and let's see if this even works. Maybe it will, who knows. So that's true, false, true. Oh, it's still not working. So what we might do is make it so it's a little less fragile. We're going to determine if e.target.checked exists or not. No, we're not going to check for checked. Never mind. I have different ones. So if I just do e.target, console log e.target, let me just comment this line out. Yep, and this line. So if you notice we have this type checkbox, that's actually a more robust solution. So we don't want to determine whether or not it's checked. We want to know whether or not it's a type of a checkbox. So we want e.target type. So we got e.target right here. We've got type and name. Those are the only two that we've got right now. So if we've got e.target.type equals checkbox, if I can spell, checkbox, then what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to copy in our e.target. And if it's not a checkbox, we're going to want to put in e.target.value into that value. So let's refresh this. That's okay. That seems to be working. So what we might do is, just to make sure, we might do a use effect. With our form inside of it. And we can get rid of this one. We still haven't tested to see if it's actually going to work or not, but let's click here. You can see accepted is true, and then false, true, false, true, false. So it's able to operate the checkbox both directions. And I believe also the enter your name, just like that. So these two lines are all you really need for a change handler. Anybody get stuck on why I decided to use e.target.type? Or you guys are good?
I'm okay.
Good.
Yeah, excellent. All right, I'm gonna take a little sip of my water. All right. Should be ready to go for a few more minutes. So now we're kind of wandering into an area where Yep starts to make a little bit more sense. So let's say that we did a submit button with show me the money. All right, so that clicking on the show me the money kind of resets the whole page. It's not pretty. So we're going to want to make something that is going to submit a form. So just call it submit form. That's going to take an event. And did everybody remember what prevent default does whenever you run it? Like event.prevent default?
It keeps the page from reloading or whatever, right?
Yeah, it stops the default behavior from the submit button. So Pretty sure I had to invoke it. We'll just console log form on that. We're actually going to be using this use effect for the button to determine whether or not it's going to be disabled or not. But for right now, it's fine. Let's see here. All right. So what we're going to need to do is we're going to do an on submit. And then we're just going to pass in submit form. And so if I save this and I put in some data here, bring it on, show me the money, it shouldn't refresh the page. So all this stuff is still in memory. So that's what the prevent default's doing, is we're not using the default form handler that's built into the web page that sticks all your stuff on the end here like that as a param. And so we're still at order form X. And the submit button doesn't break anything. It also still submits on bring it on, or if this is out, or things like that. So I think right now is a good time for like a 5-minute break, since we've been going at it for about an hour. And we'll cover yep briefly and see if we can get a disable button working. And one that requires this to be checked, since that's always a challenge for me. So any questions before we go on break?
I'm good.
Okay, 5-minute break. Okay, I think I'm about ready to get back to it. You guys ready?
I'm good. I don't know.
Definitely.
Okay. So right now, just thought about it. We probably need to be doing something more like, I would say, connecting in like an order complete page more than anything. So what we'll probably do is we need to have some sort of state to hold that all three of these routes can see. So because these three routes are going to need to access a slice of state in here, we're going to need to put in use state in here as well. And we'll just say, we're just going to call it orders or whatever. So and for this one, we're just going to have an object in here. And we're going to make it so that if you place an order, you can actually keep placing more and more orders. It'll just keep appending it to it. So the only thing that we're really going to need to show in this is, or the only thing that we're going to need to expose to the order page is just some sort of an order setter of some sort. So, you know, like an order submit or something like that. So we're going to need to pass in some information. We'll just call this new order. Musical joke, I'm sure. And all we need to do is set orders. And this is going to be the same shape. So it's going to be an array. We're going to spread in our orders. And then we're going to put new order directly into it. So what this is going to do is when order submit is run and you send it an order, so whatever is in form, it's going to add it to the order array. And on order form here, we're going to need to be able to have this order submit in here. So in order form, we could just do order submit equals order submit. So now we have a new props dot order submit, which is equal to this function up here. Make sense?
Yep.
All right. So now if I just do, you know, props here. So now you can see order submit is new order, set orders, order, new order, like that. So what we might do is destructure that from props. And then our submit form, we could just do order submit form. Save it. So now if we go And we do, well, let me take out some of this console logging stuff in here. That's otherwise it's going to get ugly quick. All right, let me refresh. All right, so this is so Brian Haig. Obviously, we're changing the form, so it's still updating that. Bring it on. If I click show me the money, we should see. Maybe we didn't log out form again. Let's see here. Yeah, we set orders, but we never console logged anything. So let's do another use effect. So we'll do orders. So the reason why I'm putting the use effect in the console log is, or the console log in the use effect is when we hit that submit button, we want to see the change happen at the next render, not whatever the previous order was. So let me refresh that. Bring it on, show me the money. All right, so yeah, that didn't work very well, right? So we got our show me the money and it just shows a empty order. So order submit form did pass something in. Let me see what it's doing. So it did pass that over. Oh, geez. Yeah. So you need to have your array like that so that you're passing it into the array, not, yeah. Typo. So let's go and refresh. All right, take 3. All right, now you can see that this has put Brian Haig in there. We're going to do Casey, because why not? He needs a Tesla. You can see now we have 2 people in here as well. So we've got Brian Haig and Casey. So that's probably good enough for right now to get some information, but we'll go along and make a page for this maybe a little bit later. I think it's more important to get Yep working than that page because that's not going to take very long. And also get Cypress working after that, which I think is what most people here are here for. So, okay, time to get rid of some of these console logs everywhere. So I don't really need that console log. I don't think I need this console log. Start grouping some of these together a little bit. So what I might do is I might do an initial form and then set this initial form to this. So what initial form is going to be is just whatever this is. This just makes it a lot easier to reset the form at the end as well. So like if we have that submit form. What we can do is we can set form to initial form like that. And so if I do Ryan Haig, show me the money, it resets it at that time. So this is the part that resets everything. Any questions?
Nope.
Okay. Let me pull up my notes on Yep right quick because my brain's not totally here.
Just one quick question.
Oh,
If
yeah,
we
sure.
were to, if we wanted to display all the orders, will we do that in the order form or in the app? Judge.js.
You wouldn't do it in the app. You would have a different route. I mean, I guess you technically could do it in the app, but typically most of the time you wouldn't render something that like that to root. It would be something like
Like
you know,
we'd map over
component.
the order and then just do a
Yeah.
div. Okay, cool.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And it would be like its own route with its own component and everything else. So you might have like an orders component or display orders or something like that. And then underneath that, you might have another one that just is called order. And the orders would then map over that array. And then order would be that one individual object that displays just a div. But that's all pretty easy. That's the same stuff you guys were doing last week. So let me see here. What did I do with my Yep notes? I'm at my dad's old house, so I don't have all my normal stuff with me. Yeah. Come on. Oh, there we go. All right, so moving on to Yep, we're going to do a import everything as Yep from Yep. And because we've already got like our initial form and everything else, it's going to be a little tiny bit easier. We're probably going to want to go ahead and define our form schema. I typically just try to do this up top. So, and this is going to be.
We don't do it in another folder.
You can if you want. I'm just doing this for brevity.
Gotcha.
Object is a function. So a lot of the times, if you see me like technically like here in app, like this header should have been its own component, like called header, and it would be called here so that you don't have all this stuff junked up. You know, you might even have one called router or something for all of this. So it'd be header, router, footer, and that might be all that's an app. That's a pretty common pattern as well. But I think, you know, doing it this way, it saves me making yet another file. But all of this stuff, you can still export it. So you could have like a form schema as an export or an export default from your form schema file. There's not anything that's going to stop you from doing that. So I'm going to kind of cheat and I'm just going to copy this because these have to be the same shape anyway. So the shape of the data is going to be an object. And So we've got our name. And so we're probably going to be doing a yup string. Yeah, there we go. If I can type, the keyboard's getting a little stiff. I don't know. I think 2 letters is probably the minimum I've ever seen anybody's name. And some sort of an error message to go in here. Something like that's fine. And this one is going to be I think that was a Boolean. I don't know. My notes aren't very good on it. So we're going to yup. There we go. Yeah, it's just bool. Yeah. And then I think I usually use a one of I think this one needs to be %90 sure that's correct. And I may have actually been able to do it just with one argument in here. Let me try that one first before I blow anything else. So we now have our yup schema. It hasn't exploded, so that's good. We're not using the form schema yet. And I'm probably going to want another form, another error thing. So another slice of state to hold these error messages if they're there. And so this is going to be name. And since we're going to want to store a string value, we can't just use this initial form here, right? So the idea is that when the form schema gets validated, it can return an error. And we're going to want to set whatever's in these error messages on this name dot or error.name or error.accepted. We also probably want to disable the button. Come on now, square brackets. All right, so our default should be disabled. So we want it to be disabled as true. And let's go back down here onto the button down here. And we're going to put in disabled equals the state called disabled. And so if I save this, we go back over here, you can see this button doesn't do anything. And if we were to change our disabled to false, then you can see that the button will work. And again, it's broken. Does that disable and enabling the button make sense? Or not really?
So you set it at a state of true or whatever, which is disabled, and then until it has the correct inputs, you can't update the state to false to enable it. Is that correct? Am I saying
Well,
that right?
we haven't gotten that far yet, but yeah,
Right,
basically
that's
all
the
I did
idea.
was, yeah, that's the idea what it's there for. But all we're doing is we're just setting a value in here. So like if I inspect this, you can see that button type submit is disabled. If I change this to false, it gets rid of that disabled. So it's just button type submit. And then it's disabled whenever it's true. So disabled equals true will show this word disabled so the web browser knows that it's disabled. And by default, in this case, it's disabled because that's our initial value that we're passing into the state. So I guess the next thing we probably should do is start talking about this use effect here. And this is probably where we're going to start doing our form schema is valid, because this is going to run after the form has been updated. We're going to want to pass in our form. This one takes a callback. So if the form is valid, what we're going to want to do is set our disabled to the opposite of valid. So what this is doing is it's checking, and inside of this callback here, valid is going to be, is it valid or is it not valid? So if it is valid, we don't want set disabled to be true. We want it to be false. And if it's not valid, we want set valid to be true. So it's the opposite of valid. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Woo. Trying to think. I don't think I've pushed too much further. I guess probably we need to start checking for if this is valid or not. So if I'm going to check my form change, I probably want to say something like validate form or form. So I'm going to want to pass in the same event here and validate it at the same time as running all this other stuff. So I can still pass in the same event into this, and it's still the same thing up in here. And it just kind of makes it a little cleaner, a little easier to break out into another file. And it's still going to run all of this, whether or not it's valid or not. So it's still going to update checkboxes or typing or anything else. So it doesn't interrupt and stop the flow by it validating. It just, well, reruns the validation. So on a validate, we're going to want to do what is it? A yup reach. Let me go back to my notes really quick. I've already forgotten. Try to do this from memory every once in a while. Yeah, it's a yup reach. All right, so yup reach is going to take two things. You're going to take your schema, and we're also going to need to know which key it wants to validate. So we're going to do form schema, and we're going to take our event target. So whatever the input name is going to be here. So it's either going to be the word name or accepted. Those are the only two values that we have on this specific form. It's a very simple form. And we're going to want to validate them. So I think in this case, because we still have that checkbox, we've got to still do that e.target.type thing and pass in whatever value is supposed to be in this name. So I think I actually need to pass this in. Probably could have found a better way of doing that, but whatever. All right. So we've got this validation, and we're looking for a value to match this name. So this is where we would put in our e.target.value, but in this case, it's either checked or valued because reasons. Thank you, the guy who invented the internet way in the day, or the World Wide Web browser. So whenever we're doing this validate, it's going to come back with a promise. And the promise is either going to give you a then or a catch, right? So if there is a problem, then it's going to catch. If there's not a problem, then it's going to go into the .then, which is actually a pretty cool way of doing it, honestly. But and this one's going to have an error in here. So this .then is past validation. And this one here is failed validation. So these are two separate paths for your validator to go down. In this case, what we want to do is we're going to want to set our error, and we need to match whatever our error is, which in this case is an object. We need to spread in our errors. And then we need to replace whichever one just passed and replace it back with an empty string. So we're going to do e.target.name and an empty string. So we can still kind of use the same thing for our error. So we've got our set error, spread error, but we don't want to set it back to an empty string. We want to set it to an error object. So error in this catch has another array inside of it called errors. And we're going to want the first error in that array. And these don't console log out very well. So it's one of those things where I've spent a little while trying to show people how to find that. And I did it at one point. I haven't figured it out since. But it is not something that is easily findable on this. I've tried console logging error just to see what error comes up with. It doesn't come up with anything. Error.errors should come up with an array, but it comes up with something else. It's really weird. My guess is it gets into some sort of a weird double promise thing or who knows what. But this works relatively well to setting an error message. So if let's say that we were to put in our 2 error messages at the bottom of the page somewhere. So we'll put it outside of the form and we'll just say P, come on, P. Error.name and P error.accepted. I believe that's all that's required. So yeah, so you can see this error here. It says must contain at least 2 characters for your name. And then we have the validation error. Please select the box. I don't know. Never seen the validation error show up before. I haven't ever seen that before. Anyway, so now it shows that you can actually click on show me the money, and it submits, shows up in the console. We now have 4 people in here. Me twice. This is a test, and Casey. Okay, so that should get you 90% of the way there. I'm sure there's bugs. We spent about 40 minutes on that. So this is probably good enough to get around 90% of the edge cases that I can think of. You guys ready for Cypress?
Yes.
Yes.
Only a little bit. You're guys like, oh, sound slightly miserable, actually. All right, let me pull up my Cypress notes. Where did I put those? Oh, there we go. Yeah, that's fine. And we can deal with the final steps if we feel like it tonight, but it's pretty straightforward to pass props down inside of a route. Not a huge problem. It's also covered in my other video. So I'm going to go ahead and split terminal this again, and we're going to do npx Cypress Open. Okay, so that's finally done loading, and let's write some tests. So I'm just going to go into integration, and we'll say order.js. Fine. So if we're going to do a Cypress test, we're going to want to be able to select from our order forms certain things. We may also want to click on certain things to be able to get from one page to another. And that's a little more complicated, but it's not too bad. If you leave it in one describe, then you can start moving, it to it to it to it to it, and follow a certain pattern and make different test suites. So I guess for me right now, I just want to kind of make sure that, our tests work. So I'm probably going to do an it. We're going to call this a sanity check. Pass in a callback. And then we're just going to expect, I usually do 3 + 5, and we're going to do .2 equal, come on. And what is 3 + 5? 8, I guess. So if we go over here to Cypress, we should be able to run this. It should give us 2. There is no 2B. I remember typing 2B. Maybe it autofilled. All right, so expected 8 to equal 8. So, all right, that's working. We're going to make a new test suite, and we're just going to call this form stuff. Why not? Callback. And I'm probably going to be pretty interested in visiting the web page. So before each of my its, I'm going to want to visit the page. So we're going to do it before each. Instead of the before each, we're going to pass in a callback. Starting to get into callback hell right now. We're going to want to do sci.visit. Yeah, I think my autocorrector is going crazy. And we're going to want to visit, I think this is 3,000. Totally legit. Yeah, it's 3,000. Okay. So we're going to go to localhost 3,000 before each. So if I just save this and we go back over to this here, we open up form stuff. It hasn't done anything because it doesn't have any its. So let's say that this, we have an it, see if a button exists for Model S. So if we want to test this, we're going to want to, what on earth? We're going to want to select a specific one of these tags. Let me get back over to here. So we want it to do this one. So if I inspect this one, you can see that this is an A tag, and we just have this href. There's no names or anything. So we probably want to go ahead and update that in our code to make it so that there's something a little easier to attach to. So what we could probably do is just do name equals model 3. We'll do X, S, Y. So this will give us something to really bite our teeth into that isn't anything that's going to change. You might also see like test ID and stuff like that, or other names in here. And for right now, name is fine. So this will give us something to select on inside of here. So what we're going to do is we're going to do we'll do a models, and we're going to I believe do a si.get, and inside of here we're going to want to do an anchor, a name, model 3. So what this is going to do is it is going to select from that web page, just like a query selector, and it's looking for a name is equal to model 3, just like you would in CSS or anything else, except this is fancy notation, right? Anybody?
Totally.
I understand it the way you're saying it right now, yeah.
Okay. So what we might do is, instead of trying to save this, because I don't think we're ever going to see this page again, it might just be worth it just to click it. So we might just do si.get and then click, right? Because I don't think we're ever going to see this thing ever again. I'm pretty sure, at least. Let's see if this explodes. Yeah. So it did get, yeah, I'm probably missing something. Give me 1 second here. Let me look at my notes. Oh, yeah. I did model 3. I want model S. Whatever. So timed out expecting to find a name model S. Never found it. That's always fun.
Is it supposed to be a capital S?
No, I think click is a function. Because in my app,
Yeah,
well, I
you have it
guess
as
it
a
is a
capital
capital
S.
S. Yeah, that's right. Well, even better. Model S. All right. All right. So this should find it, and it should click on it. So if I go back to the sanity check here, you can see we're not in anything. I go to form stuff and I open this up, and I can do this before each, and you can see where it was at when we started. And then it started doing this get, so you can see the element that it got, this model S. You can see that it clicks it and where it clicks it, and then it goes to a new URL. And well, that's it. It doesn't do much more, but it did end up going to the what do you call it, to the last one. Let me see if we can load it again. All right, and it does go to the Model S order form. So yeah. Yep. So what we might do after this is you might say button exists for Model S. Click and it goes to a form with a disabled button. That seems like a little overkill, but what we might do is kind of like we were doing with that Model S thing, right? We're going to do a scigget, and we're looking for a button with a type of submit. And if we go back over here and I inspect, you can see it's a button with a type of submit. That's the only button on this page, so I'm pretty sure that this is the one that we're looking for. And what we might do after that is do a submit button.
I think you're missing a closing bracket after submit,
Submit.
line 12.
Yeah. I also probably should have it in quotes. So submit button should be disabled. So if I save this, it's going to run it again. This is going to go same thing. So it visits this, gets the button, clicks the button, goes to a new page. It checks to see if this button exists, and it's disabled. So like that's one very valid test. We probably want to go a little further than that and start, checking things maybe a little bit more thoroughly.
All right, so I do have a question right now.
Sure.
During the guided project, she didn't put quotes over all of them, like on the side gets. Like if she was getting name equals something, she wouldn't put a quote around the whatever it equals, but she would put quotes around like ID equals something. Is there a reason for that, or like is the
So like for me, you might see me use backticks, for example, and then you might also see me use double quotes instead of here. They're just different ways of expressing a string. But so like if I use just like a quote here and a quote here, You notice how this gives me a syntax error because this is a string here, and we closed that string. Now it's looking for something model capital S and then another string. So it doesn't know what to do with this. So
I understand that. I was just wondering like if the quotes around like the Model S were necessary because she didn't put quotes around Model S, like if
Oh,
she was
that's-
looking for a name there
let's find
during
find
the
out.
data project.
Easiest way to do it is to see if it explodes. Looks like it does not matter.
Okay, cool.
Maybe I'm just old and it was required way back in the day. 3,000 years ago, Gandalf. 3,000 years ago. Right? So what we might do is if we wanted to do a little bit more with this, this is a button exists for Model S, click to go to a form with a disabled button. So what if we just copy this? So let's make another test suite or another test. So we'll say go to Model S, order a Model S. So go to Model S, order a Model S, right? So we've got the submit button should be disabled. We know that it is disabled, so it's functioning correctly because there is no data in that form. We don't want to be able to click it. So what we might do is another scigget, and let's do an input with the name equals name, and we'll type Brian Haig, and we'll do scigget, and we'll do name equals accepted. Click. So if I save this, we can kind of see what it does. So it's filled in Brian Haig and it has clicked the button. Now we can probably check to see if show me the money exists. So I guess it'd probably be submit button should not be, right? Yeah, should not be disabled. We should be able to click on the submit button. So that works, but we still haven't gone to another page, to the order page or the orders page, right? So let's go ahead and program that one in right quick, since that's kind of interesting. So let's make another component right quick. We're just going to call this orders.jsx. Nope, that is not what I want. We'll do const orders equal that to a function. This is also going to take props. And we're going to export default. Capital O. And we'll probably put this in as a section. We'll figure that out here in a second. So. Okay, so we have an order form. We're console logging what we're passing in as props. We're returning a section of some sort, and we could probably put in orders, something like that. So we know that we've gone there. So in our app where we have our routes, we have our orders state, and we have our routes. So if we wanted to add another route, and we just did say that. So we want this eventually to go to this orders route. And we also want to pass our orders array up here, right? So if I save this, we should be able to go to just /orders. And we are in our orders component. You can tell because we go in here and we have a section with orders in it, just like that, right? So here we probably could loop over our orders, so our prop set orders. So we could probably do props.orders and .map and do a I guess order. Sounds good. And we'll do an article with a p tag of and we'll do another one with order. Name and accepted are the only two things that we really passed in there. So if we've saved that, we should be able to see here. So we have no orders. So let's order a Model S right quick. So this is going to be the money that goes there. If we go to /orders, yeah, see, we've got to be able to link to it. So we're going to need to use history to do that, or have an order link to do that, because every time that I type something in here, it resets the web page. So in order form, we're going to need to do a use history. So use history is going to look mysteriously like this use params. So we've got a new variable called history, which use history is going to be pushing an object to history, or an array. So on our submit, after we've set the form back to where it should be, what we need to do is we need to do a history.push and go to orders. Oh, it needs to be in quotes. Save it. Okay, I don't think that exploded. So let's go back over to Model S. Bring it on. Yeah, so it shows Brian Haig, and we get the each child in a blah, blah, blah needs a unique key, which we can fix fairly fast. So let's just do order index. And we're going to do key. I'm going to use order name hyphen index. So this key is going to be, for me, it's going to be Brian Haig dash index instead of this key. So that's going to be something sort of rudimentary, but it'll work fine. We just want to have something unique in there. So do that. We'll order a Model X. So this is Casey. Bring it on, show me the money. And now we've got Brian Haig and Casey. And except it isn't going to allow us to do anything. So we're going to do don't need a column, I need a column. All right. So Brian Haig brought it, Casey brought it from the bring it on. Hopefully that made sense. Did I lose everybody by now? Now we can get back to more Cypress testing. So let's go ahead and copy this. So this is like 3 neat little tests. So order Model S and on the order page. Let's put something unique on this order page, like H2. Order page yo. Okay, so we have clicked, and if we go back over here, notice how it ends on the order page. We gotta figure out if this order page yo is in there, right? So probably what we can do is we could do like a sci contains or something like that, where it just kind of looks at the entire page. I think somebody was asking questions about that earlier. I'd have to look it up. Yeah, let's just try it. Let's see what happens. So we're just going to do a order page yo. Something like that. Oh, I didn't like that. So tried finding to find. Yeah, maybe it didn't like that. I think it actually has to be outside of a quote. That. that worked. So on this last one, go to Model S, order Model S, and end on the order page. So it visited the page, got the Model S, clicked on the Model S, went to the new URL. It got the submit button here. It expected it to be disabled. It was. We got the name field, inputted my name. We got the bring it on button, clicked it. We got the button, made sure that it was not disabled, and we got the button again and we clicked it. This led us to a new URL that contains order page yo. Make sense?
Can you just explain the syntax on that? The slashes and the I on that?
Yeah. So let me pull up. Regex, also known as I don't own a cat, but it looks like a cat typed on my keyboard. So there's these Regex Builders. So if I were to do a regular expression builder of orders yo, let me see here. Notice how it comes up with one match here. So this is just a way of matching. And what we're looking for is something case insensitive. So we're using an I at the end. So if I put in, say, like order page yo, it still passes here. So this is looking for a case insensitive version of order page yo, which this one has capital letters and this one has lowercase letters.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
So regex, it's very fancy. And again, if you start digging in deep into it and you get to become a master at it, you're a better person than I am. I have to usually look it up or I'll sort of remember part of how to do it. But pretty much case insensitive, very common. Most of the time I use it about once a year when I'm doing the Advent of Code challenge. And that's like the only time that I really use it. Maybe once a quarter in actual work. But I can usually look it up or somebody's already got a pattern written. So yeah, it's useful, but not necessarily something you need to learn, but just know that it's out there and what it looks like.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Anything else that I kind of briefly covered everything that's on the test. Don't think I missed anything. I don't think it's super difficult. I think the yup part is probably the most confusing part. The testing is more, I don't know. You kind of have to look at it in a really logical light. And so like, you know, how I built these its out. So before each one of these it goes back to the home page. So I have to start over each time. This one starts over, this one starts over, etc. So, but it's checking to make sure that the process of your web page works without crashing or, doing something weird. And you probably want to get more detailed into testing where you're testing the negative case. Like you're unchecking something and making sure that the error message shows up somewhere on the page. That would probably be a good idea. If you were writing a test for like a company or something. Hopefully that
Alright.
makes sense.
Thanks, Brian. That helped a lot. I really appreciate it. You cleared up everything today. Thank you.
Excellent. Excellent. Anybody else still a little foggy? I've still got a few minutes.
May I ask you a super quick unrelated question?
I like unrelated questions.
Yeah, what theme do you use on your VS Code there? Mine is different. I like your color and your text better.
I always forget which
A
one.
panda or something that Britt had before, but now I'm jealous of yours. So
I don't know.
it's no worries. If somebody has more important questions, if you want to post it later in Slack.
Oh
or
no,
something,
no, you're fine. I can't even remember how to find my. Because used to you would install
You go
them
to
as an extension.
settings. You go to settings and go to color theme.
Let's
Do you
see.
not have it? Oh yeah, you don't have it. Oh, there it is. Color theme. It was just there.
Oh, was it? Oh, it's
Yeah,
under.
go to, yeah, right there. Color theme under user snippets.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. If that was a snake, I would have been dead. I am running default dark.
Default, how funny. Oh my God. Okay, cool. Default dark.
Man, whatever that is, it's amazing.
So cool. Okay, I didn't change it.
So like usually I run like on my work machine, which is over here, I run Vampire. I kind of like the darker, lower contrast of it, but this is fine. And I think that I had something on here before, but like this is like when I went through Lambda, this is my Lambda laptop.
Okay.
So like, if let me think, I'm gonna stop the recording while we're at it, but so